Should organizations focus on building their own platforms? She's Alyssa Blackburn.
He's Mike Loader.
TechEdge starts now. Welcome back to TechEdge, presented by the team at AvePoint, where each episode we delve into the latest industry trends for business IT and their significance in today's ever-changing landscape. Now, in this episode, we discuss product versus platform. What's the difference and why should we care? Alyssa, this is an interesting one.
It is an interesting one. But Mike, let's start by just setting the scene here. Okay. How many apps have you got on your phone?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know, it's too many. Like I've probably got
heaps.
200 maybe on mine, really.
When kids ask, have you got any games on your phone?
Yeah, exactly. But this is the thing about the difference between a product and a platform. Wouldn't it be so cool if you just had one? And it did absolutely everything that you needed to do.
Yes.
So that is why our next guest, John Peluso, who's the Chief Product and Technology Officer at AvePoint, is going to talk to us a little bit more about why organisations should consider a platform approach versus an individual product approach.
All right, let's bring him in.
I think this is going to be a good one.
John, thanks for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between product and platform.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Let's see, the difference between a product and a platform. I'm a bit of a vocabulary nerd. So if we think about a product, the term I associate with a product is an application. Mm-hmm. And if you take that apart, an application is built to solve a specific problem area, right? It's an application of a solution that solves a problem. A platform is built to solve multiple problems. And I think, so if we think about it that way, that's a good way to get into it.
Okay, so let's talk about some examples of successful platforms and what makes them different to these traditional products or applications we're sort of talking about.
Yeah, so we can go a couple of ways. I think, Alyssa, you brought up a phone at the outset. And I think a phone is one example, actually, of a platform. So if you think about an iPhone or an Android phone, you can run multiple applications on that phone. So that makes the phone a sort of a platform. It's a different type of a platform. It's a platform that doesn't itself have a ton of application or solutions. It provides a basis for developers to build solutions that can access common services. So for example, the ability to fire a notification, right? Each application on your phone doesn't have to figure out how to notify you. That's part of the platform. So that's one example of a platform. I think if you think about the opposite extreme, there's something like Microsoft 365, which has a ton of different applications, but they're all centered around a common model for file storage, let's say, or again, a common model for notification. In that case, the vendor, in this case, Microsoft, has provided a lot of pre-built solutions on top of that platform of services, but also provides some extensibility as well. You can build your own applications that interact with that platform. So I think, yeah, platforms are again, things that can provide you solutions across a number of problem areas. And then there are platforms that have pre-built solutions that are extensible versus platforms that are more developer-centric and provide developers a place to sort of have a playground to provide you solutions.
So John, you've talked a little bit there about, I guess more of a definition of what these things are, and given us some really good examples of that. If an organisation, for example, is going to say, yeah, actually, a platform is more about what we want to invest in, what would be some of the risks or challenges associated with building and then, of course, having to maintain that themselves?
Yeah, I think like a lot of things, the benefits and the risks are very closely linked. So what makes a platform valuable is that, again, you have this idea of a common set of services, which can be extraordinarily useful, efficient, if users interact with the platform in a common way across applications. That creates an easier experience for them. User login and validation, if it's common across the platform, means they're not constantly hitting these login prompts. So benefits are great. The challenge for an organization that's trying to build a platform is that sometimes there can be this this push and pull between applications that want to leverage platform services versus applications that want to extend those platform services. So as a builder of a platform, right, and applications that consume it, there's always this very healthy tension between applications that want the platform to do more than it does today, which of course what that means is an application that's in the forefront can cause a platform to evolve, which then benefits all of the other applications that are built on that platform.
Yeah, very well said. I'm curious to know why businesses would choose to build their own tools versus perhaps buying them from people who are, good at building them, hopefully.
So I think in our experience, a lot of the times, applications that are built to meet a predefined set of use cases or problem spaces, customers can hit the wall. Right, and I know myself as a technologist who uses many applications. You feel like you finally understand or are superior to an application when you find something it can't do.
Yeah.
Right, which not everybody may think like that, but many of us do. So I think one of the important things is if you're building a platform, oftentimes the applications, if they're the applications that you yourself are building, we call them first-party applications. Sometimes those applications hit the wall of what they've been sort of defined to solve. And so extensibility is the term we use, but the ability for that platform to offer interfaces or capabilities to go beyond what the developer of an application has already thought of doing is super valuable. And so that's what we see being the most common reason why organizations or businesses want to build their own tools, because they feel like vendors that they're dealing with can't really satisfy or don't really understand the scope of all of the problems that they might have. And that's pretty common among application vendors. So you want to build in extensibility as well as lots and lots of capability that users can use out of the box. So it's a good blend of those two.
So John, I wanted to ask just a little bit deeper in that. So one of the things that I love to do and have had the opportunity to do over the last few years is build a garden. So I put in like a whole lot of fruit trees and it's all paying off now, and I'm not paying, millions of dollars every month for berries because my kids have finally my trees are producing. So that's great. What I do not love about it though is the maintenance.
Right.
So the maintenance of it and having to be out there every single weekend, pulling more weeds out. And I live in like the subtropical climate, so there's always weeds, or I'm spraying for pests, or something else has happened in this garden. So maintenance has become like a really significant investment of my time in this garden. Now, platforms, gardens, essentially the same thing. I think we can all agree.
I've always thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So people are talking about it. But what are organisations looking at it from a maintenance perspective? If they've built something themselves, and I did build this garden myself, if they've built it themselves, what's the maintenance overhead look like for them?
I think there's actually a bigger problem. Imagine if the way plants grow changes every 18 months.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
right,
this is the world that we live in. And 18 months is an age. If you think 18 months ago, we weren't talking about generative AI 18 months ago, right? We were probably on the front edge of it. And now it seems like our grandparents were dealing with it. So I think this is a problem in the way technology works today is to your point, Alyssa, it's one thing to just deal with the maintenance that you anticipate. It's all of the unanticipated challenges that you're going to face when you're building your own stuff that makes it challenging. And that's where we see customers saying, hey, look, I'm running my business. I'm not trying to keep up with the technology world. So we find a good synergy if you can provide organizations with enough extensibility and innovation where they sort of outsource that, right, to people who are watching the trends and watching the weather and watching the soil composition on a regular basis, to keep with your analogy. I think that's a good way to think about it.
I like how you guys were able to just riff then about gardens and make it make sense. But just to finish, John, why should businesses and consumers care about the distinction between products and platforms, just to tie our discussion together today?
Yeah, I think, it at its simplest, organizations generally don't have one problem, they have multiple problems. And oftentimes the things they need done aren't disconnected and disparate. And so my sort of thought process here is that the more you can find an organization or a provider of solutions that has established a continuum across multiple use cases, which is what a platform is, the better it's going to be. And for a few reasons. First of all, because you have a consistency of experience. You have predictability on the case of your users. We talked about dumb things like login, single logins. But when it comes to commercial things like one organization to negotiate business with, one organization to deal with support contracts, one throat to choke when it comes to challenges or problems you're having. Those are some of the reasons why I think, when you're thinking about, I have this problem today, we should also be thinking about what problems might I have tomorrow, and do I want to go through this whole evaluation process again?
John Peluso, I want to thank you for joining us on the program and outlining a little bit more about all of this. I feel like I've definitely learned something, so I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
There you go. Well said by John there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is a really important topic for organisations to consider for a lot of the reasons that John mentioned, but also when you think about what your user experience is and how easy it is for people to be able to do their jobs. When you've got everything together, everything is interconnected, we're giving everybody a better experience, which means we can give a better experience to our customers and our consumers and our communities, which is a really important thing that we need to be thinking about.
That's what we like to see. And of course, thank you to all of you for tuning in. Hopefully you've learned something, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon on Ticker.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.